Hello, Libra, and welcome to this deep, cosmic reading made just for you, here on Zodiac Whisper Tarot. In the next few moments, you're going to hear something that may feel like it's already been echoing in your soul. Because your God is warning you, something is approaching your home and it's urgent. Let me ask you something. Have you recently felt a strange stillness in your space? Not peace, not calm, but a quiet that feels off. Like the walls are listening. Like a shadow has settled in a room you once found comfort in. That's not random. That's not your imagination. That's a divine nudge, and it's why you've landed here today. Your presence in this video is not coincidence. It's a direct alignment between your inner knowing and the whisper of God. Because when peace begins to tremble in the places you call sacred, it's time to listen. Today's reading isn't about fear. It's about awareness. Your home, whether physical or spiritual, is the temple where your energy breathes. And Libra, you've always been the guardian of harmony. But right now, something is disrupting that balance. And you are being asked lovingly, firmly to reclaim it. Your God is not shouting. There is no thunder, no lightning, no spectacle. Just a quiet presence that rests its hand on your shoulder and says, I know you feel it. Now let's act before it takes root. So let me say this clearly. This isn't just about your living room, your hallway, or your front door. This is about the relationships that walk in and out of your space. The memories stored in boxes in the back of your mind. The obligations you've outgrown, still sitting like heavy furniture in the corners of your emotional home. And you, beautiful Libra, have stayed quiet for too long, just to keep others comfortable. But who protects your balance, when you're the one tipping the scale? In this video, we're going to uncover what that energy is, why it's coming, and how you, with grace, clarity, and sacred authority, can clear it from your life. You don't need anyone's permission to be free. Your only job now is to listen, trust, and act. And before we dive in, let me take a moment to thank you. For every like, every comment, every soul who has subscribed to Zodiac Whisper Tarot, I see you, and I am deeply grateful. Your support is what allows messages like this to reach the people who need them most. And believe me, Libra, you're going to want to stay with me till the very end of this message. Because what the universe is about to reveal is nothing short of breathtaking. Now, tell me this, my loyal Libra, what have you done in the quiet spaces of your heart that called this message to you today? Leave a comment with the sacred number 444 to confirm what you already know deep down. You were meant to hear this. It often starts with a feeling you can't quite name, like walking into a room that's perfectly quiet, but your heart starts beating just a little faster. You've been sensing it, Libra. Not in big, loud ways, but in the subtleties. Tension that never quite resolves, silence that lingers too long, a memory that unexpectedly resurfaces when you look at an object you thought you'd already moved past. This is what happens when the energy around you no longer matches who you are becoming. The shift doesn't come with fanfare, it whispers. It shows up in your home, your relationships, and even your sleep. And now, the universe is inviting you to notice, not with fear, but with clarity. Your cosmic chart speaks volumes this season. With the moon brushing past Venus and Saturn casting its weight on both your 7th and 4th houses, your attention is being gently but firmly pulled toward what feels close to home, the bonds you've formed, the peace you've tried to preserve, the corners of your world where discomfort has been swept under the rug for far too long. The 7th house governs partnerships, and the 4th rules your roots, both emotional and physical. When energy becomes unbalanced here, it doesn't always scream. Sometimes it just steals your rest. If you've been waking up at night for no reason, or feeling watched when no one's around, these are signals. Your inner self is trying to have a conversation with you. Are you ready to listen? In tarot, justice has shown up not to punish but to awaken. This card reminds you that true balance is not keeping everything in place for the sake of peace, but having the courage to reset the scale when it's tilted too far for too long. You are not here to be agreeable at the cost of your well-being. You are here to live in alignment where your truth, your values, and your space reflect who you are now, not who you once were. That brings us to the 4 of Swords. You are being asked to rest, yes, but more than that, to retreat inward long enough to feel what you've been ignoring. Libra, you are known for your grace, for your ability to make things look easy. But healing isn't about looking composed, it's about choosing calm over chaos, even if it requires deep inner work. And yet, there's the 7 of Cups, a beautiful reminder that not everything that glitters is gold. Some of the options around you, whether emotional connections or possessions you keep around, just in case, are illusions. They are energetically confusing because they once held meaning. But now, they cloud your vision. And when you're clouded, it becomes harder to discern what deserves your energy and what quietly drains it. You might be holding on to people, memories, or environments not because they're good for you, but because they're familiar. And this is the season where you're being nudged gently, compassionately to let go. Not with resentment. With gratitude. God never pushes us to act from fear. The guidance is subtle, like light filtering through a curtain asking us to sit still, to take inventory of our inner space, and to make decisions not out of obligation, but out of wisdom. You were not made to carry the weight of everyone else's expectations. You were made to create harmony, and that begins when you draw sacred boundaries for your own spirit. If something or someone in your space no longer aligns with the peace you're building, it's not cruel to release it. It's holy. When the soul matures, it no longer tolerates what once felt acceptable. That's not losing compassion, that's growing in clarity. So take this moment to ask yourself gently, what am I holding on to that no longer holds me in return? Not everything that stays is meant to remain. And not everything that leaves is a loss. Sometimes, it's just space being made for something more aligned, more loving, more true. Stay with this question. Let it guide you through the rest of this journey. There's something incredibly intimate about the spaces we live in, not just the walls and floors, but the corners that hold our memories, the light that filters through at just the right time of day, the scent of something familiar lingering in the air. For you, Libra, these details matter more than most realize. You don't just exist in a home, you feel through it. The energy of your environment becomes a mirror for your inner world. When balance is present, you thrive. But when something's off, even subtly, it resonates in your entire being. That's because your home isn't just a structure. It's a living, breathing reflection of your emotional landscape. It's why, when peace begins to feel thin or fragile, your soul notices before your mind can name it. This is a moment to pay attention to what your surroundings are saying back to you. Sometimes the furniture is arranged just right, but there's still tension in the air. Sometimes the lights are on, but something feels dim. This isn't about aesthetics, it's about alignment. And the truth is, we don't attract what we say we want. We attract what we make space for. The law of attraction isn't just about thinking positively. It's about clearing room, both physically and emotionally, for what truly nourishes us. In your case, that starts with your sanctuary. Begin with the energy you wake up to each day. Are there piles of things you've been meaning to sort through? Are there areas of your home that feel emotionally heavy, places you avoid or don't want to look at too closely? Often, the spots we ignore in our homes are the same places we avoid within ourselves. This week, you're being gently guided to address both. Start with what you see. Clean the corners that haven't been touched in months, especially near mirrors and windows. These are energetic gateways. When they're clouded, they distort not just your reflection but your perspective. Restore clarity there, and you begin to see your own life differently. Use soft lighting, open a window, play calming music. Your nervous system will thank you. Let color support your process. Surround yourself with pastel pink, the tone of quiet compassion, reminding you to be gentle with yourself. Add touches of creamy white, a color that energetically protects and simplifies. And if your thoughts have felt overwhelming, bring in mint green. Even in small accents, it's a hue that calms mental noise and invites emotional ease. You're not decorating for anyone else. You're making a visual promise to your own peace. It's important to recognize that your space is a relationship. And like any relationship, it needs presence and intention. If something in your environment or someone makes you feel like you can't breathe fully, that's worth paying attention to. Whether it's an object from a past chapter that no longer aligns with who you are, or a connection that leaves you feeling depleted rather than supported, this is your invitation to reset the tone. You don't have to make grand gestures. Change doesn't always begin with a loud declaration. Sometimes, it starts by gently rearranging a corner, by opening a drawer and releasing what you no longer need. These tiny actions ripple. And soon, your outer space begins to reflect an inner shift: less clutter, more clarity. Less noise, more calm. There's a quiet wisdom in knowing that not everything deserves a place just because it once had one. And it's okay to release with love. You're not abandoning your past, you're choosing your present. Sometimes, honoring what was means letting it rest. As someone once reminded me, peace doesn't need permission to exist. It simply asks that you make room for it. So as you move through your space this week, ask yourself one honest question: what am I keeping that no longer reflects who I am becoming? If the answer makes you uncomfortable, that's good. Discomfort means growth is near. This is your sacred moment to realign not just your environment, but your energy. Because when Libra restores balance, the entire universe exhales. There are moments in life when holding on feels safer than letting go. For you, Libra, that feeling is familiar. You've spent years choosing harmony over conflict, compromise over confrontation, and peace even if it meant carrying the weight silently. But what happens when the very things you cling to for peace are the ones slowly pulling you away from yourself? That's the quiet question circling around you right now, and the universe is gently encouraging you to answer. You are ruled by Venus, the planet of love, beauty, and relational grace. That means your natural instinct is to preserve connection, even when it's uneven. to understand both sides, even if one of them is harming you. But true love, the kind that heals, uplifts, and restores, never asks you to abandon yourself. And real balance cannot exist where you are the only one making space. There's a quiet power in understanding that letting go isn't rejection, it's realignment. It's the act of choosing peace without guilt. The Page of Swords appears in your reading not to cut, but to clarify. This is a time to see things for what they are, not what you hope they might become. Gentle honesty is still honesty, and Libra, no one does graceful truth like you do. You may find yourself needing to speak a truth you've kept tucked away, or perhaps you need to admit something to yourself that you've avoided for too long. Whatever it is, there's strength in acknowledging it. Let your truth rise without resistance. It doesn't have to be loud to be life-changing. And then, the Lover's reversed enters not to signal heartbreak, but to remind you that you have the right to choose yourself. Relationships are not always about two people staying together. Sometimes, they're about learning how to return to yourself after giving too much. This card calls you to look at where you've been making sacrifices that no longer serve either party. It's not unkind to admit that a dynamic has changed. In fact, it's one of the most loving things you can do because it gives both souls permission to grow. Six of Swords wraps this message like a gentle tide pulling you toward calmer waters. The departure doesn't have to be dramatic. You don't need to slam doors or burn bridges. Some goodbyes are soft. Some exits are simply the end of an inner story. And you can leave behind the weight without letting go of the love. Remember, letting go doesn't mean forgetting. It means no longer letting something define your emotional landscape. It means making space for light where shadows once lingered. Numerology supports this shift with the number 6, the vibration of love, service, and healing. This isn't about turning your back on anyone. It's about turning your face toward the light. You've been giving from an empty well. It's time to refill it. It's time to nourish your own soil so that the next garden you grow flourishes with intention, not obligation. One gentle practice you might consider is writing a letter not to send, but to release. Speak to the version of you who tried so hard, who held everything together. Thank them. Acknowledge their effort. Then, if it feels right, burn that letter beneath the moonlight with dried flower petals. Let it be a ritual, not of loss, but of liberation. These small ceremonies aren't about magic, they're about mindfulness. They're reminders that peace can be chosen with purpose. And finally, trust that your heart can still be soft while you build stronger boundaries. You don't need to harden to heal. Some of the greatest wisdom in Scripture speaks not of vengeance or power, but of choosing quiet strength, of knowing when it's time to walk forward, not in anger, but in truth. So if there's something or someone you've been afraid to release, ask yourself this: is holding on protecting your peace, or postponing it? Because sometimes, the most loving thing you can do is to let go. Sometimes, what looks like self-care from the outside is actually deep spiritual alignment in motion. You, Libra, know how to show up for others in conversations, in compromise, in holding space for emotions that don't belong to you. But now, something has shifted. The mirror is turning gently back toward you, and the question is no longer, what do others need from me, but, what do I truly need, without apology, without delay. Caring for yourself isn't selfish. In fact, it's one of the most sacred things you can do, because when your body is nourished, when your mind is quiet, and your heart is steady, you become a vessel for wisdom, not just reaction. And from that place, every choice you make carries clarity instead of confusion. This week, your chart shows the need to realign your physical rhythms with your emotional center. The stress you've been carrying is not just emotional, it has been slowly landing in your body, one silent weight at a time. Your nervous system is asking for restoration. Start with the small things. Reach for foods that support your natural hormonal balance, like creamy avocado, soft tofu, and chia seeds that hold water and calm inflammation. Not because you have to restrict anything, but because you are choosing to be gentle with yourself. A warm bath infused with lotus leaves or soothing herbs might be more healing than you realize. This is not about indulgence. It's about remembering that your peace is a practice, not a privilege. At work, your surroundings reflect your mental flow. If you've been feeling scattered or uninspired, consider shifting your desk, reorganizing your creative space, or even moving your chair to face natural light. The way energy moves around you physically impacts the way your thoughts form. And sometimes, a fresh perspective starts with where your eyes rest when you look up. Make room for new ideas by refreshing what's around you, not to impress, but to invite flow. Finances, too, ask for attention, not fearfully, but rhythmically. Libra is an air sign, and with that comes the tendency to float when you need to anchor. Try working with a cycle: receive, hold, spend, and give consciously. Each phase has power. Receiving with gratitude, holding with wisdom, spending with presence, and giving with joy. When you engage with money like an energy, not an enemy, you start to notice patterns that were once hidden. You don't have to be wealthy to feel abundant. You only have to be aligned. In matters of the heart, the energy becomes more delicate. Relationships, like any part of life, evolve. But there's a difference between someone who grows beside you and someone who keeps you guessing. If you find yourself constantly questioning where you stand, that's not partnership, that's performance. You deserve clarity. You deserve to be met, not managed. And if someone's presence in your life causes more static than signal, it's okay to step away quietly. It doesn't have to be dramatic. It just has to be honest. There's something powerful in the kind of silence that comes from peace, not avoidance. That's the kind of quiet you're being called into. One where you no longer need to explain why you're choosing yourself. Where you no longer need to make a case for your well-being. When you take care of your body, tend to your space, and protect your heart, you're doing holy work, not just for yourself, but for everyone you quietly uplift just by being grounded. And remember, when you step away from what dims your light, you give others permission to do the same. There are times in your life, Libra, when guidance doesn't come in the form of loud signs or lightning-struck revelations. Instead, it arrives in the pause, in the deep stillness of a quiet morning, in the breath you didn't know you needed to take, in the silence that no longer feels empty but safe. You've been searching for direction, asking for clarity, trying to find peace in the external, but something deeper is unfolding now. You're being shown gently, lovingly, that the path you seek is not about running towards something new. It's about remembering what's always been within you. Peace isn't a destination. It's a decision. It begins the moment you stop over-explaining, overextending, and over-giving just to keep things balanced for everyone but yourself. It begins when you finally whisper, "That's enough," not in anger, but in quiet recognition of your limits and your worth. Your God isn't coming to fix your life. He's already placed the wisdom inside you. Now, He's inviting you to listen. To return to that inner space where decisions are no longer made from fear, but from self-trust. You don't need to chase validation. What you need is space to hear your own heartbeat, to remember that calm isn't something you earn, it's something you choose. And that choice often starts with stillness. Imagine this for a moment, a doorway within you slightly open. No blinding light, no dramatic music. Just a soft breeze of presence moving through. That is the presence of grace. It asks nothing from you but honesty. No more pretending. No more shrinking to fit someone else's comfort. Just the truth, quiet and sacred. Try sitting with that stillness for 5 minutes each day. No goals. No pressure. Just the rhythm of your own body reminding you that you're here and you are enough. Picture a warm hand on your shoulder. Not to guide you elsewhere, but to remind you that you've already arrived. These are not small acts. These are soul-anchoring practices. And every time you choose one, you declare, "I no longer abandon myself to keep the peace. I am the peace." It's okay if your boundaries disappoint others. You were not created to live in discomfort just so someone else can stay in ease. Saying no to what drains you is not rejection. It's redirection back to the version of you who remembers how to feel safe inside your own skin. And if there's one message your God wants you to hold close right now, it's this: peace doesn't come from fixing everything around you. It flows from the moment you begin honoring what's true for you, even if no one else sees it. You might not realize it, but your story, your quiet decisions to choose yourself, could be the very light another Libra is searching for. If you've ever received a sign, a moment that felt divine, a pattern that kept showing up, an image that appeared when you needed it most, I invite you to share it below. That simple act of sharing might be exactly what someone else needs to feel less alone. And in doing so, you're not just affirming your own journey. You're creating a ripple of restoration, one quiet truth at a time. And now, Libra, as we gently close this chapter, I want to invite you to take a deep breath, not just with your lungs, but with your spirit. Because what you've just heard wasn't just a message, it was a mirror. A reflection of the parts of you that have been quietly waiting for permission to rise, to release, to return to your center. You've walked through this journey with such grace, from the warning signs that something was shifting in your space, to the gentle awareness that your peace had been stretched thin, to the brave acknowledgement that not everything deserves to stay simply because it once mattered. Throughout this reading, you've explored not just outer shifts, but inner truths. You've heard the quiet call to cleanse, not in anger, but in love. To protect your home, your heart, your energy field. To reimagine balance not as people-pleasing, but as soul-honoring. And most of all, to reclaim the power to choose what stays and what leaves in your life with kindness, with clarity, and without guilt. I know it's not always easy for someone like you, someone who feels everything so deeply, someone who weighs every decision carefully, not wanting to hurt, not wanting to disrupt the flow. But let me remind you of something sacred: balance is not about keeping everyone happy. It's about honoring the truth that lives in your chest, even if no one else hears it but you. You are not here to smooth every edge or carry every burden. You are here to live in alignment. And that begins the moment you no longer sacrifice your own peace for the comfort of others. So let me ask you, truly, are you ready to create a space both within and around you where your truth doesn't have to be quiet anymore? Are you ready to let go of what you've outgrown, even if it meant something once? Can you imagine what it would feel like to wake up in a space that reflects who you are now, not who you were trying to be for someone else? You don't need to fight for peace. You simply need to stop giving it away. The moment you say, I no longer need permission to live in peace, I choose it, and I am worthy of it, everything around you begins to shift. Not because the world suddenly changes, but because your energy does. You become the anchor. You become the safe place. You become the mirror for others to remember their own worth too. If something in today's message touched your heart even softly, I'd love for you to leave a comment that says, I've chosen sacred balance. Let it be your declaration. Let it be your signal to the universe. Let it be your gift to another Libra who may be silently searching for their own reminder. And before you go, let me thank you deeply for being here. For showing up. For giving your attention to something that matters. Every like, every comment, every share you offer is not just support, it's light. It helps this space, Zodiac Whisper Tarot, grow into the sanctuary it was meant to be. And through your energy, we get to bring more healing, more clarity, and more love to others who need it. So if your heart feels full, or even just a little lighter, stay with us. Subscribe, share this with someone you love, and continue walking this journey of cosmic self-reclamation not alone, but surrounded by a community that sees you. Until next time, may your steps be soft, your truth be louder, and your peace be protected like the sacred treasure it is.